concerned about. Okay, it's camera 2. He's Bruce the Blog.
And he's indubitably Bazzo, and you're watching Bruce the Blog Goes Bazzo. Hello again, everybody. This is Bruce the Blog Goes Bazzo, and before we get started and introduce our guest today, I just wanted to let you know, if you're not already aware, that Peekskill during the summer is like a summer-long festival. 2 weeks ago, they had the Jazz and Blues Festival. Last weekend was Peekskill Celebration, and our company, actually, Chase Media Group, were in the Dragon Boat races. And this coming weekend, we want to make sure that you know about Festa Italiana Peekskill, which is in Peekskill all this weekend. There's a lot of things going on, and so we just think you should go over there, and there's a lot of food and music and vendors and all kinds of things, and it's always a great time. So remember, Festa Italiana Peekskill. And then we also, as you know if you're a regular viewer, have our Salute and Salvo of the week. This week we want to salute Dave Klaus, who happens to be a good friend of our guest. And Dave Paganelli, our guest, will talk about him in a little bit too. But the reason we're saluting Dave Klaus, who besides being a great guy and being married to Jean Marie Klaus, who's a great gal, Dave has been on the Yorktown Planning Board for 18 years. And most recently, he was the chair of the planning board, and he's done a tremendous job, as anybody who knows him or knows about the planning board will tell you. And they're going to miss him. I mean, there's no question about that. But he's been there for 18 years, so we think he well deserves to take a break now. And for our salute of the week, I'm going to throw it over to Bazzo.
You mean the salvo?
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Bazzo, for correcting me. I thought I was the editor, but I guess you're editing me.
No, the salvo this week is going to go to, it's either the oil companies or the wholesaler or maybe even the gas stations. Oil is $97 a barrel, yet it's still $4 a gallon. This is, there is, you know, I've spent...
Or more than $4 a gallon.
But I spent a few years now defending big oil because I said, you have the speculators, you have the government taxes, but this one, where it's under $100 a barrel and it's somebody is being greedy, and it can't be the speculators because they're $97. So their money is there, and it's under 100. So if I understood how this stuff worked, then I could say it's big oil. But for all I know, it could be the wholesaler or even the gas stations now saying, hey, why should I give up this profit I'm making per gallon?
Right.
And they should, whoever it is should be salvoed because this is so wrong.
Right.
It is removing from people disposable income they can use in other endeavors.
Right. Well, I guess to paraphrase Shakespeare, oil's not well when you end up at the pump and have to pay those prices. But
well, you showed a picture
you saw my
on
blog, right?
Blog.
On my Bruce the Blog recently, I put up a pic. I was at one of the pumps and ready to get gas, and you always see the previous motorists and whatever the price is up there. And I did a triple take. $120 was, I mean, they must have had a pretty big car, but Volkswagen. I couldn't believe it was $120 that somebody had just paid for gas. So I took a picture of it and put it up on my blog. And what I say, prices at the pump were a real pain in the gas, right?
No, David's got
we have to now. We have to.
Yeah, I know.
What? I thought I was the.
Okay,
I thought I was the senior. We have to introduce you first.
Let me speak on that.
But nobody. They all know who he is.
President Obama just passed legislation that by 2025, every car would average 54.5 miles per gallon.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So imagine how that's going to be.
Yeah.
We'll be driving very small cars.
Yeah, well, you wind them up. And
Which actually for all three of us will be a challenge, right? Anyhow, we do want to formally, officially introduce our guest and friend, Dave Paganelli, who a lot of people know, most people know, up until now as the owner of Travelers Rest in Yorktown, and we won't get into the fact that it's on 100 and also sort of an Ossining, right?
Ossining mailing address, but in the town of Yorktown.
In the town of Yorktown. Yeah. Travelers Rest arguably is the most beautiful. The landscaping, the gardens that Dave and his wife Nancy keep in the back, it's just a gorgeous setting and restaurant, and they do a phenomenal job with it. We wanted to talk to Dave today because he is running for the Yorktown Town Board. And actually, I just came back from a Yorktown Chamber of Commerce meeting where Dave was one of the candidates interviewed. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But first, Dave, I know you wanted to say something about your very good friend Dave Klaus that we saluted, and the fact that he's done an amazing job, right, with the planning board.
He's done an amazing job, and what a lot of people don't realize is, and this is something I think as part of my platform, is that we really need to recognize volunteerism in Yorktown.
Yes,
we have
absolutely.
a volunteer fire company that saves us millions of dollars. We have a volunteer ambulance corps that saves us millions of dollars. We have, zoning boards, the planning board, Dave Klaus. People think they just go up there and they pass judgment. I mean, I know personally the amount of effort and work that it takes before you could make those judgments or make those recommendations, and the amount of experience it takes. So he's going to be surely missed, and he truly put his heart into it.
He's your friend too, and I've seen, he's like almost your right-hand man at times. He's been a very good friend to you.
He's been a wonderful friend to me, and he's helped me out immeasurably. Not in his capacity as
no, we're
on
talking
the
about
planning
as a
board,
friend.
but
we're talking about
as a friend,
I didn't want anybody to misconstrue.
Right,
I was talking.
Christmas time when we're decorating the restaurant, Jean, Marie, and Dave come in and help Nancy and I, and it's just their friendship is invaluable to us.
No, and even beyond that, I mean, I know Dave Klaus through Dave Paganelli, and I can vouch for it. Even like Dave is arguably the most charitable restaurateur in this area, as a lot of people know. And with our Harrison Apar Foundation, he does a lot of amazing things for us. And Dave Klaus, even with that, before I even knew him well, he was offering to help at the event. I mean, that's just the way he is. Yeah, he just can't help enough. I mean, that's the kind of person.
He's a truly community-minded person.
Right. And what I didn't realize, Dave, is again coming from that chamber meeting we just have, is that your name means little friend. I never knew that. Is that true? It's in Italian. And Dave corrected us on the correct pronunciation of his name.
Which I've never done.
Don't tell people your name means little friend anymore. Okay, please. Don't do that.
Right. Well, Al Capolini, the past supervisor and a raconteur, as well as a very good lawyer, said, I thought it meant little pagan.
Paganelli.
One other thing about Dave Klaus that should be mentioned, he's also the cook at Dave's barbecues.
That's right.
At my home.
At his own home. He's sitting on the lounge, and there's Dave doing the barbecue. I love that stuff. One question when we talk about before we go into the Yorktown races. As a businessman, how have the fuel prices affected your...
Everything affects you. This year, health insurance is going up 24%. I mean, unfunded mandates from the federal government. We had to put in a chlorination system, even though for 100 years we've never had a positive bacteria test. It's just businesses are getting squeezed from every possible angle.
What I'm noticing right now is you've got a lot of companies from the A&P to Dunkin' Donuts to Taco Bell are now bumping, Kentucky Fried Chicken bumping up just because of the transportation costs. They can't eat the difference anymore. And I got to say, it's got to be affecting you. I mean, if it's affecting these big corporations.
Oh, I get a linen delivery. I see a charge on there for environmental compliance. I see a charge on there for delivery. I see a charge for, 4 or 5 charges that add up to $150, $200 a week. The situation is such that you can only bump your prices till you start to affect your business.
Yeah.
It's a very competitive environment right now. People, are very price savvy, and you need to give them value, and you need to maintain quality while being able to reduce prices. And I think that's what gives me a unique perspective in terms of government. Is that I've been able,
Right.
fortunately, I've been able to
You're
do
talking
that.
about those little charges on the bottom of your bill, okay?
Yeah.
Now, you're here in Yorktown, and you want to make a difference. And everybody says, I want to make the town more business friendly. Yet they don't say, other than this, what they're talking about now is the escrow account with the, what's that called?
Escrow developer fees.
The developer fees.
The developer,
but there's
fees
gotta,
and the developer fees and the escrow account, I think, are two different things.
No, but what I'm saying is there's got to be other things as a businessman that affects you, that you say to yourself, why am I going through this? Why don't I just, this doesn't make sense. Shouldn't it just be gone? Why do I have to, why do I need a lawyer to fight against me, to navigate, to open up a business, when if we remove some of these damn ridiculous codes, I don't need the lawyer in the first place? And then the town could be proactive in helping me open instead of my adversary in opening.
Well, I think the problem is that in people's perception, and I'm not saying it's based in reality, but people's perception is that Yorktown is not a very business-friendly community. And the unfortunate fact of the matter is we are facing a tremendous problem, not just us, the county government, all local governments. The president had to beg to be able to borrow another few $1 trillion to keep the government running for 12 months, but without defaulting on loans. I think the problem is that we need to address, the only way for Yorktown to survive is to address this economic shortfall that we're going to be coming into as a result of lack of mortgage tax, as a result of the property tax cap, and all the other things that are befalling us. Lack of, actually sales tax is up a little bit, but
lack of jobs.
Lack of jobs. 25 million Americans out of work.
Yes,
I'm sure everybody knows somebody that has lost their job. The only way to address this is twofold. In business or as in government, you can either cut expenses and you can increase revenue, all right? And it's a combination. You need to be able to do both.
Dave, I just did a column on a guy trying to open up a tattoo parlor in Peekskill. He has spent a year now just trying to address the law that bans it. Right. That went back to the old, it's been a year of his time. They have these meetings where he has to leave his job because he works nights. A year of his time, and they haven't gotten past step one.
But that's a different scenario. That's a business that's been banned. Not that I'm saying it's correct,
look at the baby store on 202. How long they wanted to put a road behind his thing until that was fought off.
Well,
but the guy had to hire a lawyer to protect himself from government making a stupid decision.
Look, you can argue government intrusion till the cows come home. We have, in the last 4 or 5 years, we certainly have not limited government intrusion. 5 years ago, you could have put a pool up from Kmart in your backyard. Now you need a permit.
Yeah.
Don't you think you should get rid of that requirement?
But from a business, I think what Dave was starting to get at, I think, is, one man's intrusion is another man's regulation. Some people think certain things need to be regulated, right?
I don't think it's any of the damn business
I know Bazzo feels nothing should be regulated.
No, that's not true. That's not true. There's certain minimum things that should be done, especially like with electricity and plumbing, that could cause a fire and burn your neighbor's house or flood out your neighbor. But most of this stuff is so that you, number one, to raise revenue for a town. Which
is what's wrong with that? They need more revenue, right?
I need to go to the town and ask permission to do most work on my property, like if I want to put an above-ground pool. I don't think I need the town. I should say, oh, pretty please, if I give you $25, will you let me have this little
And by the way, before we go any further, Bazzo, you're offending my sartorial sensibility. Please put your collar down.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we can get through the show with me feeling much less anxious.
But
I could see you were getting
I have to jump this a minute before I forget. A lot has been made of a ridiculous thing. You know, you and I have both advocated that in local elections, party affiliation doesn't
It means very little.
Right.
Yes.
Yet you have got one of the candidates that actually lost his bid, the primary, still going in the news media saying that I'm going to do a write-in candidacy and I'm the only Republican. I've been a Republican for 30 years and Dave Paganelli's a Democrat and it would be why should a Republican go?
So,
Dave.
Now, I know you're not talking about Tom DiGiero of the winery, are you?
No, Tom just said his press releases said that he was one of the only Republican, the illusion, but he didn't mention Dave by name. One of the other people have been mentioned Dave by name. Dave.
Oh, who? Are we going to say?
Zed Chiffon.
Oh, okay. All right.
The curmudgeon. No, but.
Is that one of the 7 words George Carlin said you can't say on TV?
Curmudgeon.
No,
No, it's
curmudgeon.
okay.
I don't know.
You want to know what the 7 words?
No, we don't. Actually, we don't want to know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anyway, Dave, let's set the record straight from the beginning. Why you why you switched parties initially 2 years ago, and why you're back now to the Republican Party. Say it yourself, so nobody can misinterpret and speak for you anymore.
All right. I registered as a Republican in 1972. All right. I'm 56 years old. All right. So do the math. 72, 82, 92,
I look
02,
better than you for 50.
12. For 39 years, I was a registered Republican. Okay. For 2 years, I registered as a Democrat.
Why? People want to know.
Okay. The reason I registered as a Democrat was because I was approached by a friend who had asked for my help to run on the Democratic ticket. And I was told by the Democratic Party that I had to switch party lines to run. And I wanted to help a friend. It was a pure of heart
You could mention the
motivation.
friend because it's no secret.
Don Peters.
No secret about your friendship with
Right.
Donnie. It's no secret.
Don Peters, excuse me.
Past supervisor.
Past
of your
supervisor,
time. Right.
was running for office, and I felt that I wanted to run and support him. And he felt that he wanted me to be by his side, and that we would, run together. And unfortunately, I was registered. I said I can't do that when I was first approached. I'm a Republican, and he said, well, it's okay. You can run as a Democrat. Now, I was naive. Perhaps I should have asked for a Wilson Pakula. I didn't know what a Wilson Pakula was.
Well,
at
you're
the
not
time.
a politician. Let's make this straight.
Right. I'm not a politician.
You're not wise in the games they play.
Right, as is evidenced by challenges that we're facing now based on minutia. But I didn't know enough to ask for Wilson Pakula, so I changed party lines and ran. I went and interviewed with the Republican Party and explained the situation, and was basically at the convention. I had one person that warmed my heart, and they said, I do a lot of reading of the Bible, and I understand, and stood up and said, I say welcome home to the prodigal son.
I remember that because they said you had done a wonderful mea culpa on that, saying that I'm coming back home, that this is where my heart is and this is where my beliefs are.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult, to be honest with you, once you start looking, and really it doesn't matter on a local level. You serve the people. If you're the kind of person that's going to serve your interests, then you shouldn't be running for office.
Now, Greg Ball's a sitting senator. He's Republican, and he actually involved himself in a primary, which is very unusual for any politician to do. As we've known, we have some politicians we know that are staying so far away from the primary, it makes their head spin because it would be controversial. Yet Greg endorsed you and Nick. But doesn't Greg's endorsement of you almost validate the fact that party label didn't matter? That it's the man, the character?
I would say that's part of it, but I also feel that anybody that knows me knows that, where I stand on things, that I am a pure of heart representative.
What does that phrase mean? You keep using it, and Bruce always told me when I write a column, never assume people know what you know.
That's right.
Okay.
So now,
cardinal rule of journalism.
I believe that pure of heart means, I don't think there's a person running that can say they know everything. And I think always have maintained this, that the most dangerous person in the room is the person that thinks they know everything, because they're not open to suggestion, they're not open to any new ideas. My feeling is, and it's not a catchphrase, it's something I live by, pure of heart representation means that whatever you do because you truly believe it's the right thing to do for people. But my record speaks for itself with respect to the charities that I've supported and things, and that it's sort of I carry that into public service. My decision to run was that I had helped a lot of people, you know, through the charities, and I felt it was time to bring that caring and that help to the constituents
Now,
of
you
Yorktown.
just meant that you were talking before the show at the Yorktown Chamber, and you were you're about knowing everything, and you gave them an answer that Bruce picked up on. What was that answer you gave about, I'm not going to know the answers?
Well,
I'm not a politician, and I
Right.
won't have all
Right.
that.
right. Someone had asked me a
Who
question.
set it up? You were there.
Yeah,
Set this
I mean,
up.
right. We just, as I said before, we just came back. The Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, under President Joe Visconti, has been very active in business development and in championing the need in Yorktown for, you know, much better, more business-friendly policies, right? And also in wanting to ask all of the candidates running this year in these face-to-face meetings that they do invite the press to, the media, where candidates stand on you know, developing a more business-friendly town where the real bottom line is generating more revenue for the town, so that the town could provide more quality of life, better quality of life services to all of its taxpayers. So, you know, Dave Paganelli was just there, and I will tell you, editorializing, that he did a very good job. It was very noticeable to us that he had no notes. And yet you spoke off the cuff, you know, like you said, from the heart, there was no question. But what struck me that I really found refreshing for anybody running for office is Dave said, and I wrote it down on my little tablet device here.
Which is still letting him read from you now.
Right, this is my teleprompter, you might say. I'm not a politician, this is Dave talking. I'm not a politician. I won't have all the answers until I'm there. And I'm thinking, thank goodness somebody's being honest about that, because the cliche about candidates running is that they have all the answers and that they make all
the solutions.
They make all these promises that nobody could possibly keep all of, right?
Right. It's unfortunate. It's been an eye opener for me, the election process, that, you know, people will, you know, promise the world, and you know, there are very few people willing to put it in writing.
Yes. Right.
You know, our last campaign, you know, we came so close, and you know, we made it a point of every week for 10 weeks putting in the paper where I stand, and it wasn't an arrogant position. It was a position of letting the people know that this is what you could expect from me when I'm elected. You can go back to the paper and say, well, you said this.
Right.
You know, to say it when you're meeting people and to say, oh, we're going to cut taxes, we're going to do this. You know what? You can't say that.
Right. Well, you're holding yourself accountable, right?
Right.
Yeah, but let me
I'm holding
ask
myself
yourself, because you're going out knocking on doors and you're meeting people. Yeah. Do sometimes the people force you into a position because you don't want to, you know, make them sound like they're stupid talking to you, and so you say things, so you're trying to be kind to somebody. Oh, somebody says something like, I think I should have a standalone senior center. I think I should have my own thing. You know, the community thing isn't good enough. Putnam Valley has a standalone center.
Putnam Valley built their standalone center with federal funds when money was available.
But
I stood on this.
People like
I was the only candidate last election to come right out and say there will be no standalone senior center. Everyone else was promising a senior center.
Right.
I said there will be no standalone senior center because there just is no funding for it.
Right, but nobody would tell you. I know you told, but don't you feel like people are putting you in an awkward position?
No. You either tell the truth or you don't tell the truth. There is no, people are, right now there are 100
yeah,
people.
But you know
there are
they're
100
being
people
lied to. You had candidates, like you said, promising a senior center, saying we're going to use the money.
Sewers, promising senior centers,
but they're talking about the money that John Hall had earmarked for Yorktown, when that money was only earmarked to upgrade what existed.
Actually, it was earmarked for services.
Right, but I'm saying
Right,
it had a specific, but you had these candidates outright lying to the senior citizens, much like Obama did, saying you're not going to get your Social Security if we don't increase the debt limit. You know, they're lying to these people's face. Then you come along and you say, I can tell you now there's not going to be a standalone senior center because there's no funds. Right. Doesn't it aggravate you that you've got these guys out there lying and it puts you on the defensive for telling the truth?
No, actually, I think it puts me in a better position for telling the truth because I don't underestimate the intelligence of the average
Just what I was
voter.
going to say, do you think people know the difference?
I think people know the difference. I think people respect honesty. I think people may not agree with you, but if you're always honest, they'll say, well, you know what, he said that's the way it was going to be.
And now, believe it or not, Bazzo, because we go through this every week, we have 5 minutes left.
Good.
I know it's hard to believe, but there's a couple of other points I wanted to ask Dave to touch on that, again, came from the chamber interview meeting that I think a lot of our viewers can relate to. Courtesy of the floor at the town board meetings, which you talked about. And I thought it was very interesting the way that you phrased it, because I remember some years ago I wrote a column about this, and what Dave said, courtesy of the floor, it's never, it's hardly or often not courteous.
Rarely
it's
courteous.
discourteous.
You even discussed this 2 years ago. You did a whole ad on that. You got, what is your...
And then Al, by the way, Al Capolini, who was sitting next to me, he had a great metaphor. He goes, it's a turkey shoot, which was a great visual.
Yeah, but what do you feel when somebody gets up there and you see one of the council people talking to each other or leave the room and all that?
Well, I think the courtesy of the floor is a twofold thing. I think a lot of the people that go there have no intent of being courteous. I think
they're mad.
I shouldn't say a lot.
They're mad.
They're mad, and they have a specific issue that should somehow, or perhaps they just want to air their grievances on television. I don't know what it is, but my feeling is there should be some way, and I had said this last time, that there should be some other form of recourse for them that they can go and talk to a government official and say, whether it be a person at the senior center, whether it be a person somewhere, and say,
yeah, but
here's
how do you find that government official? You have government officials, the only time you hear from them is when they run for office. How about with you? Are they going to be able to find you?
Yes. That's, it's funny, people have said to me, well, you run a business, how do you expect, to serve the town? And I've said, I'm the most accessible person in the world because you know exactly where to find me.
And Bazzo and I can't understand why anybody would want to air the grievances on television, even though we do it every week. but no, I think that's true, is that, and we should explain for people, if you're not somebody who goes to town board meetings or watches them, that courtesy of the floor is when any resident can get up, go up to the podium, the microphone, and what is it, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and has 3 minutes to say whatever they want to say.
And then there's usually a second courtesy.
Yeah, but now
so
wait a
basically
second.
they have 6 minutes.
Yeah,
so
but
if you have 10 people there, each having 6 minutes, now you're taking an hour of government time where important decisions have to be made, things have to be discussed so that the public, not at a work session necessarily, but at a board meeting.
What's more important than hearing what the people have to say? I'm going to have to come right down and say, who cares if it takes 2 hours? The people paid for that microphone.
That's right. No question about it. But the point being, it could be structured differently. Town business perhaps should be taken care of first so that people who are there, who have petitions, who are, trying to have their projects approved, don't have to sit through an hour of courtesy of the floor.
I think
maybe perhaps some towns do the courtesy of the floor at the end of the time. Anything is worth, there's nothing that's taboo. There's nothing that you can't talk about and say.
But what about when somebody's on the floor and they talk to the board and they ask a question and everybody just sits there stone-faced like the person didn't exist.
But that's a courtesy of the floor. They're not allowed to answer that question.
What do you mean they're not allowed?
Then you need to change the format.
Now, how about changing the word
2
courtesy?
minutes.
How about changing the word courtesy? If somebody asks you a question, you work for them. You're elected. I pay you. I'm asking you a question. Don't I deserve an answer if you have it?
You do get an answer, but you don't get it right then and there, apparently.
Why not? That's wrong.
Well, that's the way it's set up.
But people's time is valuable.
How about Bazzo? How about courtesy of the floor?
Yes, I know. I heard you say 2 minutes. And you're still letting me read the teleprompter. Take that away.
No.
We're going to take Bruce into spontaneous
we'll put it right
mode.
there. I don't need it. See, I memorized my closing lines. So anyhow, but anyhow, Dave, thanks so much for being here as always.
Pleasure.
It's always
good
to see you.
Yeah,
you bet.
You know we love you, Dave. Besides as a friend. You know we
Oh, he gets a kiss. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
much. Now I feel better. Go. Your close.
And these were my opinions. You may beg to differ.
And what I want to say is, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk. Thanks for watching.
And they actually do, apparently. You get some pretty good...